Okay, loads of hurling back this weekend. Michael Verney with me here. Verney, what game are you looking forward to most this weekend? I think it has to be Cork against Limerick.
I'm down in the sunny southeast at the moment, so I'm going to say Wexford and Dublin because there's people looking at me here, and I have to let on I'm a Wexford supporter for the weekend.
They're probably looking at you like you've two heads because yeah, you're as thick as that and that has two heads. Don't know where I was going with that insult, but you can take it anyway. Cork against Limerick anyway. Cork are missing three lads who would be mostly in the team. Actually, Conor Lahan has been in and out a little bit. He hurt his hamstring, came off injured early against Westmeath in that game that was badly affected by the weather. Damien Cahalane is out and Sean O'Donoghue is out. But there's a few more lads that are back in. There's something about Cork the way they seem to have the number of Limerick to some degree. Should have beaten them in the 2018 All-Ireland semi-final. I don't know, is it steel, is it lack of a panel or whatever, because Limerick brought lads off the bench that made all the difference. Last year, Cork beat Limerick in the championship. They're feeling to some degree, styles make fights. Sometimes you might think one lad's an unbelievable boxer, but just fighting a certain type of guy just doesn't suit him. Maybe there's something where Limerick don't exactly love playing Cork.
I definitely subscribe to that. The reason I thought Cork would win the All Ireland last year is because I thought they were the one team that could beat Limerick. Number one, they always have the forwards to hurt you. It's just at the back where you're definitely not fully sure. And when Limerick would hurt you, they don't have 4 or 5 sharpshooters that are going to hurt you, if you know what I mean. So Cork just seem to be able to shut them down, and it seems to be a relatively open game when every time they play, which kind of seems to suit Cork in fairness. And it's a big game for them this weekend. Callahan missing is a big loss because since going out half back, he's been kind of driving forward, and he would maybe put your old Hegarty. He was playing 7 wing back, so he'd probably try and put him on the back foot. So that's a big loss. The other two boys are losses as well, but he's a particularly big loss. You're going to have, you'd imagine Darragh Fitzgibbon, Shane Kingston, all these guys are going to be coming in with a bit of a spring in their step after Fitzgibbon, and they're obviously letting enjoy themselves as well. But it's going to be an interesting game. Cork have been so in and out. First game they were beaten obviously by Waterford, weren't particularly good. Played well against Tipp, were poor, very poor against Westmeath, and now this is another big test. But as you say, the styles are interesting. They do seem to match up well against Limerick.
The other side of it is Limerick are arguably better this year than they were last year, and Cork, in the grand scheme of things, took a backward step last year. Got have a new manager in. Obviously, he was the manager previously. Might take him a while to get his feet under the table, and even just like half the squad more or less is under the age of 23. Owen Cormack had that stat in the Examiner. So I don't know. There might be a case of trying to blood a certain amount of new lads. So the point is, I feel like Cork are a little bit up in the air, still trying to find their team. Cahallan's out in the half back line being one example. We don't know who the centre back's going to be. Maybe Robert Downey will be full back. Whereas Limerick are a very settled team. You know what you're going to get from them. And they're able to play summer hurling in the depths of winter, which you never thought you'd see. Normally in kind of wintry conditions, it's a team like that's really physically imposing, like the way Kilkenny were, and obviously they were well able for the summer as well. But Limerick have gone the other way. They're sort of like Barcelona in the ball around the field, and this shouldn't work in the winter, and yet it does. So I did an interview with Paul Brown, who was obviously a midfielder there for 10 years and just retired over the winter, and he was saying that the drills they do with Paul Kinnerk, they're all very, very kind of targeted towards what you're doing on the field, and you very quickly know exactly why you're doing these drills. And within that, he was explaining how, in light of the game against Galway, where I could be midfield running back towards my own goal with a man up behind me, and you'll still give me the stick pass, even though you're potentially putting me in trouble. But they're just so confident in their own gameplay, their own touch, their stick work, and the game plan in general, that they'll do it. So that's worth watching. It's on the playlist there in OurGame as well. But what are your own thoughts on that?
Yeah, aside from the Barcelona reference, because Kilkenny were never like Barcelona, the similarities between Limerick and Cody's Kilkenny are just absolutely glaring, in my opinion. First things first, you said there, we kind of know what Limerick are going to do. We always knew basically what Kilkenny were going to do, and we basically knew what 15 they were going to have most times out. You have that with Limerick already. The All Ireland winning team, a couple of little positions may be tinkered with, but invariably you know 12 to 13 of the bodies that are going to play, which usually is a very, very positive thing because there's consistency and continuity amongst the team. But just what you mentioned there about the style they play, I suppose, like if that's working well now, it's very worrying for other teams if it's working that well now. You're just thinking this should not be working. You're looking at it and thinking there's too much going on here. There's way too much going on. There's so many different passes, so many different triangles, 10-yard passes, pressure passes, and it's working. It breaks down some days, like it broke down against Tipp in the first half. But invariably, if it's working this time of the year, imagine like with like perfect ground underneath you, dry conditions, a dry ball, how well it'll be working in the summer. And that's a bit frightening for other teams.
I was doing a piece for the RT website there, and I was looking at the change in Limerick over this is the fourth season now with John Kiley. And one of the big things he did that sort of allowed him to build this system was to get hurlers into the back line. And that's something we'll talk about with Wexford as well. But like TJ Ryan's last game in 2016 in the championship, he had his half forward line, two of the three were Keane Lynch and Declan Hannon. They're now his centre back and his midfielder. And they're probably two of the better stickmen on the whole team. Two of the brainier ones. And he's built his team all around that. If you look at some of the players that have improved over the years, well, they're two perfect examples. Keane Lynch getting hurler of the year. Seamus Flanagan couldn't even get on as a substitute in the under-21 All-Ireland final in 2017 when they battered Kilkenny. Like Graham Mulcahy has come on a mile. He's been on the team since 2009. He's come on a mile. Pretty much every player in there has improved massively since he took over, since Paul Kinnerk got involved. And like, he just fundamentally changed what they were about to take like those two forwards and turn them into the spine of his team. I'm not sure would anyone else have done that, because I at first when I saw Keane Lynch going from the forward line where he was so tricky to out the field, I was a bit like, are you not wasting it? But it turned out it was just a perfect move.
Yeah, you're kind of thinking. I think hurling has changed though an awful lot. You could have a really good corner forward and you could play in midfield now, and he might be as dangerous at midfield with the way hurling has been played now as he would be a corner forward. Keane Lynch was sometimes been tied down by teams, so they pulled that away. He was a corner forward or even a half forward, so they pulled that away, allowed him to be creative. Same with Declan Hannon, was underneath the dropping ball as a wing forward. Now he's controlling the game from centre back. He's probably looked at his most intelligent players and the best players he had and said, I want to be, I wouldn't say he wants to be solid at the back, but he wants to have predominantly his best players on the ball. And if you look at your centre back and your midfielder, they're two of the key positions that are going to have be on the ball a lot. So why don't I get my best players on the ball? And just what you're saying there, like people would say about, oh, maybe lads are eulogising about managers, or maybe lads are eulogising about coaches. When you look at it and you do think, yeah, every player, bar none nearly, on that squad has improved an awful lot. You have to just say like that just doesn't happen under everybody. That sort of thing just doesn't happen under everybody. They're clearly at the top of their game. And Kylie's obviously a serious operator, and obviously we know what Cork has done already. He's in his 30s and he's coached two different teams to win All Ireland hurdle titles. Neither of them traditional strongholds, which is just phenomenal, really.
I wonder who's more important to their team, or which team do you think would be more inclined to take a serious dip if they lost their star man? Aaron Gillan with Limerick or Patrick Horgan with Cork?
Oh, interesting. I would first, off the top of my head, I'd say Horgan, because when some lads are in and out, invariably over the last 4 to 5 years, he's always been in. He's always been playing well. Even when he's not maybe on song from play, his free taking has been outstanding. He's been actually really quiet in this year's league from play. He's hardly scored from play in this year's league. It's been nearly everything from place balls. But to me, you just think, yeah, he's going to come good really from play as the summer goes on. Galan is hugely important. I think by having him maybe on and off in a couple of games so far, I think maybe they're realising that as well, and maybe that they realise that they need other points of attack as well. So bringing in like a David Reedy, I'm sure they'd like to be playing Peter Casey maybe more this time of the year, but they're both very important. I just don't think Cork could function really without Horgan.
But then again, Limerick's whole game plan is based around getting the ball into Gillan, because not only can he get out in front and win that ball in front and move over and back across the square, he can also win that 50-50 high ball. And like, Could they put anyone else into that same position to do that same job? I actually don't think they could.
They probably don't have that same type of player, no, to be fair. I'd imagine there was maybe they did become a small bit predictable last year, and Ganam was relatively quiet in the All Ireland semi final last year in comparison to how he had played throughout the year. So maybe they're realising as well that they need to find some sort of other kind of ace in the pack up top, or maybe I'm sure there's a few lads that were waiting in the wings there on the sideline even as well that maybe haven't seen that much time over the last maybe year to 18 months, and you'd imagine they'd be unleashed at some stage just to for something different maybe.
We'll move on to Kilkenny against Clare. Clare are looking in a good position now to top the group, especially if they beat Kilkenny, which is a tough task away from home. They've beaten Laois, beaten Carlow, and beaten Wexford. Um, I always wanted to see, when that Kilkenny team was coming towards the end of the 14-15 team that won the All Ireland for Kilkenny and the 2013 Clare team. I always wanted to see what would happen if those two counties met at Croke Park in the championship. But unfortunately, Clare were always too flaky to get that far. They've played a few times in the league, but I feel like you sense that Clare are a team that Kilkenny have trouble with.
Definitely in the last 4 or 5 years anyway. You're looking back to that league semi-final in 16, I think, when they ran them off the field in Thurles. They ran them off the field in Ennis then in the league game the year after as well. Two big defeats. I think at that time that had been Cody's biggest defeat as since becoming Kilkenny manager. I think the All Ireland final last year since kind of recorrected that. I think it was 13 points in the 17 league game. I think it was 14 last year in the All Ireland final off the top of my head. But Jackie Tyrrell's book is very interesting. They obviously were beaten in 13 and beaten quite early. And I think there's a part in it where he talks about meeting Tommy Walsh or something that winter. I don't know, did they go on a holiday? They probably didn't, but he met him at some stage. And Tommy had a few points in him anyway at the time and was kind of like, you take Collins, I'll take Kelly. It was like everyone had written Kilkenny off. Kilkenny were finished. These were these new young fellas on the block. And they were mad. I got the sense definitely across from the book that Jackie was mad for that challenge and Tommy was mad for that challenge, but it just never materialised because Clare never put themselves in that position after 2013. Imagine to say that the All Ireland semi final in 2018 was the next time they got back to Croke Park. So having absolutely burst on the scene and taken hurling by storm that year, it's every game goes on, as every year goes on, it looks more and more like that kind of 2013 season was a bit of an aberration.
And actually, so Davy Fitz was 5 years with Clare. He's in season number 4 with Wexford, but in his 3 seasons with Wexford, he's already gotten more consistency and more good seasons than he did in total with Clare, which says to me, backs it up even more that 2013 was a one-off and that Wexford have better quality and calibre of players and he can actually get more out of them because he just has a better group of players. I don't mean mentally or sounder group or whatever, but just more quality.
Yeah, maybe definitely would say take a few performances in 2018 out Davies' consistency over his period with Wexford so far, and even this year, and getting that big win last weekend against Kilkenny. He's had massive consistency. Clare were very, very in and out. Did they win a Munster game? Did they win a Munster game under him?
I'm trying to think that they beat Waterford one year.
Possibly. Sorry, yeah, that might. I don't think after they won the All Ireland in 2013, they obviously beaten in Munster that year and came through the back door. I don't think they won a Munster Championship game in the last 4 years. I think I'm fairly right to say that. So that's kind of an endemic of Clare, just an inconsistency, not really knowing what you're going to get. And to be honest, while they're on top of the table at the moment with 3 wins, they've beaten Laois, they've beaten Carlow, who they're both expected to beat. They beat Wexford with a gale blowing down Wexford Park when you don't really learn. It's like the Tipp Clare game last year in the league. It was a horrible evening. A gale in Temple Stadium, we don't learn anything about the game. This is the weekend that we learn something about them. As I say, there's nowhere, you can't really call anywhere else other than Kitnolan Park the Lions then, and they're going down there and they're going to have to produce something. They're looking in pole position to get through to the latter stages of the league, but if there was a reversal at the weekend and if Dublin turned them over as well, they could still end up in trouble. So this weekend is the first real test. I don't think we can judge Clare on anything we've seen so far.
As well, we might get a. We'll see when the teams are named, but will Shane Golden be full back again? How will that go? Will the Ballyhale lads actually, yeah. So there's that spine that we saw last weekend against Laois, which was um, Cathal Malone centre back, Shane Golden full back. Will they be up against TJ Reid and Colin Fennelly? If they are, that's the ultimate test of whether it works. David McInerney at midfield. Here's a fair test in the lines then, as you're saying. Davy Fitzgerald went off injured. He was playing centre forward, so he went off injured against Laois, so he may or may not be out there. But it definitely, in terms of like Brian Lohan finding out, are these experiments working? This is the first time. Assume that he'll really find out, because like the weather against Wexford made a nonsense of that game, and the other two games against Laois and Carlow, he was probably always going to win.
Yeah, so he went 3-6 against Wexford. He went with Conor Cleary and Pat O'Connor. Then he switched 3-6 the last day, which is it's an interesting one to switch midway through the league. Like, so if you're going to go back to, will he mix a match between those kind of four now, or will he settle on two? Cody, I'd say, having been bet last weekend, they always place great emphasis on the league, so I'd imagine they'll want to get through to the league semi-finals, at the league's quarter-final, semi-final. So just looking at the date here on my phone, and or on my Skype here, it's 20th of February, so it's exactly a month after the club final. It'll be a month in a couple of days. So you'd imagine there'd be a few of those guys integrated back in, especially after losing last weekend. They'd want to get a win and just get back on the horse again. And I'd be surprised if you didn't see, Adrian Mullen or Colin Fennelly or Joey Holden or TJ, particularly TJ Reid is probably the most likely one that you're going to see, I'd say.
Waterford against Galway then, it's not even 3 years since these two teams played in an All-Ireland final. Everyone knows Waterford's story. It feels like they've kind of fallen off the edge of a cliff since, haven't won a championship game since. Got to a league final last year but got absolutely bet asunder by Limerick. We don't know anything. Like both teams have new managers. Not really sure where either is going this year. Waterford definitely encouraging signs so far, but it's probably too early to tell anything about either of these teams. But yeah, even just to throw out a question, it's difficult. We don't know what teams are going to go out, and we don't know how seriously that the teams are taking it. I got the sense that Liam Cahill does want to impress in the league. Shane O'Neill, not 100% sure. Maybe he does, or maybe he's just thinking, wait, kind of peak the team for the summer or time it for the summer. Do you have any thoughts?
It's mad to think that it's 30 months or just under, probably, since they met in the All-Ireland final. And, God, we were top of the world basically after that. And now, in a relatively, I suppose it's a week is a short time in politics. A week or even a month in a year is such a short time in the GA. It can turn around so much. There's so many question marks hanging over Galway now. You're still looking at all the experienced faces. It doesn't look like to me that there's many new faces have emerged yet. I don't know what you're saying there about Shane O'Neill maybe not targeting the league and going for championship. Yeah, there's merits. There's merits to that, but there's also merits to the Kilkenny approach, the Limerick approach of trying to make sure you're always going well, rather than we haven't really produced it yet this year with all our eggs in the basket of championship, and then if you don't produce the first day or the second day, you're under pressure. Do you know what I mean? So it's a tricky one with Galway. I haven't really seen the new faces emerge. That's what would worry me from their respect. Liam Cahill will definitely be going home for the league. He will not want any bad performance thrown in. There's no room for complacency from anyone within the Waterford camp. Players, management, anything. They're just trying to hit the ground running straight away, get performances, get consistency, get a bank of performances the whole way through.
I've been kind of hearing that Joseph Cooney won't be back this year. We know how good he's been for the last few years, but he's back in Australia. I don't think he's going to be back this year. A lot of people, you hear him talking about Davy Burke, that his legs are gone. Like, he's only just turned 30, and we all talked about Tipperary last year was supposed to be gone because so many of their players were 30 and they ended up playing well. But with Davy Burke, he had a quiet All-Ireland semi-final against Bursley. I think everyone who watched the game would know that. But he'd done a bit of travelling in Asia, and I don't know, maybe he just wasn't kind of at the normal physical level he can get to. But I'd be interested to see if his position has changed this year, because he has done a lot of years at midfield, and you know yourself, it's a difficult position to play. There's a lot of running required. maybe a move to wing forward, which is has a bit more structure to it than midfield, and like even just knowing that this side of the field, this lane is my lane, with a bit of license to go elsewhere. I don't know. I think that could be a switch to look at this year because there's definitely more to be got from Davy Burke.
It was kind of interesting and it kind of flew under the radar. And I'd say a lot of people maybe didn't even know till after. Like he had been travelling a lot. He's on a career break from school at the moment. I think he was on one last year as well. He'd been travelling a lot before that Forest League game. Wouldn't have been back. Wouldn't have that much of a bank of training under him. Actually went back travelling a bit since that game as well. You'd imagine he'd be coming back fresh anyway and eager for road. Midfield is a very tough position to play for the guts. Like he's played midfield. Well, I played corner forward, but an all-star corner forward, played a bit of wing forward, but he's played predominantly midfield for the guts of a decade, and it does take it out of you. And he was always the one that was dropping back, doing a lot of really dirty work in defence as well, and always been there as an outlet ball for either the full back line or the half back line. So what you say would make a lot of sense because when it comes to delivering ball inside, and maybe switching with the ball at that diagonal, he would work really well as a wing forward, as a deep line wing forward, because he always gave brilliant ball into the forward line as well. So maybe something like that might be needed. Maybe there's a bit of energy needed in midfield. But the candidates for midfield probably aren't really jumping off the page unless they're going to hurl Cotton Mannion there this year. Maybe he's going to hurl wing forward. It's hard to know, but it is very, very important that they have fairly settled midfield. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there to kind of what they do maybe just to try and re-energise him a bit.
One guy that I'm interested in seeing his progression is Diarmuid Kilcummins. He would have played for the Freshers the other night for I'm not for NUIG against UCD. Apparently very, very impressive. Couldn't really keep into him at all. I've seen him kind of jump from doing brilliant stuff to not so brilliant stuff so far this year in the league. He could be one of the options at midfield. The more I think about it, like they have to try and get Dahi Burke out the field a little bit because he's a brilliant fullback. But if you can just find anyone to be a stopper back there, it would just release him out because his energy. Now the flip side is I wonder with the amount of miles he has on the clock at this stage from playing with Cork and Galway over the last number of years, is that going to take anything out of him? Is he even going to have the same fire in his belly? You know, year after year after year, it's hard to keep it going for anybody. I'm not just picking him out. But yeah, I just wonder how are they going to change things this year, or what's the switch that's going to make things click? Because Joseph Cooley is such a big loss. Johnny Glynn, who's involved in the backroom team at New York, is he going to be around? You know, I mean, so much of what this Galway team was built on, it just feels like everything is up in the air. And like you said, though, like a week is a long time in politics. They could turn things around in a couple of months. Like they still wouldn't be that far off the top teams. Like Clare, I wouldn't consider higher up the pecking order. I know Dublin knocked them out last year, but Galway could easily beat Dublin this year. Kilkenny, they beat Kilkenny last year without Joe Canning, so it's not like they're far off.
No, definitely not. The Dahi Burke one's a really interesting one because when you're playing full back and everybody knows you're going to be playing full back, in a sense, after a while, particularly if you get a bit stale like that, you're there to be shot at. You're only you're just reacting. It's a 20 or 30 yard run every time. You're not constantly moving. If they move him out wing back, maybe midfield, we'll just say wing back midfield, he's kind of constantly moving. It's a lot more like the football game. Maybe he gets to use his athleticism a bit more than what he has been doing. He's just been a rock in a full back basically, not been able to do that, maybe that much hurling. Maybe they look at putting, they have a kind of maybe a surplus of backs, so to speak, especially if you put Fintan Burke in wing back. Maybe they'll put Gerard McInerney in full back. Maybe they'll put Cork Man in centre back, Fintan Burke one wing, and maybe they look at putting Dahi Burke the other wing or putting midfield. And maybe you could also look at switching Davy Burke, who would do a mountain of hurling wing back as well. Do you know what I mean? So there's lots of options there. Then you have Davy Burke facing the ball, which is totally different. And as we said about his delivery, he's one of the best deliveries in the game. So he's going to be on the ball a lot. And it would be very similar to midfield and the role he has been playing. So it'd be interesting to see what they do there. You'd like to know the conversations that are going on behind closed doors about who's going to be playing where. No more than you said about John Kiley with Limerick. You'd love to know who was it said we're going to play Declan Hand centre back. Do you know what I mean? Because that happened from the very start. So there's obviously a conversation that happened at the very start when the management team met. So it'll be interesting just to see what the conversations are going on behind closed doors in Galway with Shane O'Neill at the moment.
Dublin are playing Wexford this weekend. They haven't played at Croke Park since 14-man Tipperary absolutely battered them there in a league quarter-final, I think it was, in 2018. The funny thing with that game, I think I just come out from a training session or a match, went into a bar and I saw it was something like 11 points to 2 to Dublin. And I was thinking, Dublin are back here, Dublin are in business. And what I saw afterwards was like a horrendous collapse. Now Tipperary have been known to do that to Dublin over the years, but with 14 men. And then I was just thinking there as I'm talking, Dublin getting battered by 14 men again against Kilkenny recently, and I'm just wondering, like, is that a lack of leadership on the field that you're not even realising how to take advantage of this sort of an advantage that you should have?
I don't know. Possibly, like I'd be straight with you. When I played Offaly, we always fancied our chances against Dublin. Of all the teams, we
Why?
just always fancied. We just thought we'd always be able to match them if we put it up to them. If we put it up to them, we kind of always thought that maybe they'd back down a small bit. And if we did produce a performance, I remember beating them in Tullamore in the league one year. Dalo was over them, and we weren't expected to do anything the same day at all. We ended up winning by 5 or 6 and winning relatively comfortable enough because we kind of put it up to them and we were able to keep their foot in the throat the whole way through. Like you kind of think you can look at that Dublin team at the moment and think if it's put up to them, sometimes they back down, like they did maybe against Leeds last year, like they did against Dublin in the first round of the league as well. Do you know what I mean? Like you just again, they're probably not as good version of Cork in the sense that you just don't know what you're really going to get from them. Um, and whereas if Marty Kenny had the first year that he wanted, where they got into the All Ireland quarter final and gave a really good performance in semi final, um, or got into the All Ireland quarter final, gave a good performance against Tipp maybe and been knocked out, it would have been different coming in. Now they're coming in with that question mark, terrible performance against Kilkenny in the league. This is one of the first big tests. This is the first big test of them for the league since then, and it's going to be interesting how they react. I think the last time they played Wexford in Croke Park was that absolute disaster of a game for Wexford 4 years ago in the championship. Liam
219 to
Dunn's
12
last,
points for Dublin.
yeah, yeah, Liam Dunn's last Leinster Championship match at Wexford. And we were chatting to Tom Dempsey over the just before Christmas when he were asking whether Davy would stay on or not, and he just said like nobody could have envisaged maybe walking out of Croke Park that night that Wexford would be where they are now. And look over Dublin are kind of now question mark. In Wexford, you're looking at top 3, top 4 team realistically. It changes very very quickly, but Dublin still have an awful lot to prove.
I'm actually going to look up that Wexford team from that night and see if much has changed. But just before I do, and I'll let you react to what Martin Story said on our game this week, he was talking about how so much of this Wexford team and the way they moved the ball up the field, and that so many of the players were off the backs were once forwards. So that they're all so comfortable on the ball. Like Kevin Foley used to be a centre forward, and you often see him running up the blind side looking for a pass. We've talked about it before. Liam Ryan has done it.
Theo O'Keefe.
Yeah, Paddy Foley was a wing forward for Martin Story with the Miners. So just your thoughts on that, and I look up the Wexford team from 2016 just to see was there much of a change.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, from Davy's point of view, like he's obviously trying to get lads to go forward from whatever positions they're playing in. So if he knows, he's obviously done his research, and he obviously has JJ Doyle and a few more lads, Wexford heads that maybe know a bit more about these guys' history than he does, and he's looking and thinking, yeah, these guys have all played in the forwards, and sometimes they're good backs, but why don't I get them to go forward as much as they possibly can as well? So it makes an awful lot of sense from his point of view. And then you're thinking maybe other teams would try and copy that, but maybe other teams wouldn't have the same, I suppose, wealth at their disposal in the sense that he's getting these guys to push forward, but they're as natural going forward as they are at defending, if you know what I mean. Which is an interesting one. So he's got seriously versatile players, and he's making the most of that in a very, very creative and interesting type of way.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the team there. I'll just read out some of them. O'Leary in goals, Liam Ryan, Matt O'Hanlon fullback, Owen Conroy cornerback, Owen Moore, Paddy Foley, D. O'Keefe, midfield, Jack O'Connor, Harry Keogh. Then you had Kenny Morris and David Dunn in the half forward line, Liam McGovern, Conor MacDonald and Podge Doran. So the team actually has changed around an awful lot in 4 years. Cathal Dunbar came in. Ian Byrne and Ian Martin came in. Geez, that team really has changed around an awful lot in a few years, and it's definitely one thing that's standing out to me. More mobile and more lads that will be comfortable on the ball.
Yeah, way more mobile. It's funny when you go through that team and you're thinking, I'd still consider Colin Dunbar very young, yet he was coming on 4 years ago. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of mad. It's like Polly Foley was very young at that stage, playing centre back. I remember he was very, very raw. In fairness, very, very raw. You're talking about the forward in there. Conor MacDonald was still, well, he burst on the scene 14, 15, 16, but he was still relatively young at the time. David Dunn was only a young fella, only 19 or 20 this year as well. So in fairness to Liam Dunn, would have introduced an awful lot of young fellas into the fold. But one thing Davey did, especially coming in, is he knows his same as we talk about Kilkenny or Limerick. He knows his three, he knows his six, he knows either one or two of his midfielders. He knows 11, he knows 14. Like the team now. It's Mark Fanning, Liam Ryan, Matt O'Hanlon, Dee O'Keefe. Kevin Foley sweeper. You know each in the centre forward. You know Conor McDonald is full forward. Do you know what I mean? Whereas that team is a bit all over the place.
Actually, Conor MacDonald, I think, even made his debut in 2013. I think he played
As a
that
minor.
day against Clare in Thurles that went to extra time. Remember that same day that Mossy Waters did his cruciate, and the game didn't even stop for him, and he was there
Yeah.
on the ground prone. But that aside, Dublin did batter Carlow last week. It was 20 points to 9. It was tight at half time, but very comprehensive. Now Laois and Carlow are both on 0 points each, but Carlow's scoring differential is worse than Laois's. And Laois had put up a decent performance against Clare last week, albeit they faded when you thought they might kick on in the second half with the wind. It's a real relegation. Well, I suppose it's 2 points for a win, so a relegation 4 pointer.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. This is the game that I think both managers, Colin Bonner and Eddie Brennan, would have earmarked at the start of the year. Getting Division 1 hurling is great, and they want to make sure they stay getting Division 1 hurling. So this is the game. Basically, win this game, and Laois or Carlow or whoever's defeated has picked up points against someone before that, which was always unlikely. But win this game and you stay up basically, and you avoid the relegation playoff. So it's a huge game. You'd have to say the edges would be at least. They've been far more consistent throughout their three games and put it up to better teams. They put it up to Wexford. They served it up to Clare for the guts of an hour the other day. In fairness, as well, so they've been far more consistent. I'd have to favour Laois. Carlow have been missing a few bodies throughout the league, and I think it's 33 points they've scored in three games, averaging 11 points a game. You just won't win anything with that. It's going to have to be a real kind of dogfight, maybe in bad weather, with them scoring 113 or 114. You'd imagine for them to win. So the edge would have to be at least there for me.
Yeah, Carlow have lost their games by an average of 16 points so far. I wonder, is there any sort of an element of a hangover from getting relegated from the Leinster Championship, that they know, right, we were at a really high level last year, performed well in the Leinster Championship, and now we have to drop back down another level. So our chances of kicking on, even if we have a good year in the Joe McDonagh, chances are our year is going to be a step in the wrong direction no matter how we get on.
There definitely shouldn't be. If there is, there's something wrong, because there definitely shouldn't be. They know they're playing Tier 2 Joe McDonagh, but this is their guaranteed chance to play Division 1 against the elite of the elite. They played the elite in the Leinster Championship last year, where they were, very creditable at times within that. This is their chance. There should be a bounce. If anything, there should be a bounce for the league, because they know what they're up against, and it just doesn't look like there has been. Probably a combination of factors, to be fair, but they've just looked like a fish out of water so far. This is the game. This is the game to try and get them out of. They'll struggle, particularly Laois and Port Laois.
I suppose the final game of the weekend then is in the other group. Westmeath are down there. They're looking odds on to be in a relegation battle with the team that'll probably be the losers of Laois and Carlow. I think for Tipperary, in a way, the fact that last week's game against Galway was delayed, postponed because of the weather, that might end up being a good thing, because if Tipp had to play that and lose up in Galway, then you're talking 3 games in a row where they lose. This game against Westmeath, not to be too complacent, but I think there's a fair chance Tipperary will win this. So if you win this game, you've steadied down, and even if you do go and lose your next game, it's probably less of a big deal, because you probably interrupted it with a win. What do you think?
I think it was the perfect scenario, yeah. Because if they'd been beaten by Galway, are saying, "Oh, without winning the league, three defeats, not they're not, they're staring at coming fifth or whatever in Division One, which wouldn't be great. Whereas now they'll probably sample a good few bodies, throw in a few good few new bodies. They'll still get a result. They'll still get a result handy enough without being disrespectful to Westmeath, and they'll have points on the board, and they can still. The way it'll work out now is they can still qualify. Whereas if they'd been beaten by Galway, they wouldn't have been able to qualify and from then. Whereas now they can get a win. If they can beat Galway and then win their last game, they'll be through. So yeah, I think it's an ideal scenario really, because it's just like if they've been beaten 3 times in a row, like we both kind of have to. So we're under pressure here. 3 games in a row, defeat. It's just the way it is. Like, so I think Storm Dennis was definitely a good thing for Dean Sheely.
Yeah, games on in Nina as well. We both went to see Tipp play Clare in Nina for the Munster Hurling League. Kind of shows that they're not expecting a massive crowd for this, I'd imagine.
Yeah, probably. In fairness, I do like that though. I do like the fact that they usually bring a league game to there. It's like in Offaly, like the first league game was played in Borough as well, and there would you just whatever's going to be in Nina will be more than what was going to be in Semple, if you know what I mean, because it's basically surrounded by a load of really staunch hurling clubs in North Tip. So there'd still be a decent crowd there, but it would look fairly small if it was in Semple Stadium. Yeah, it's funny to hear. Shane O'Brien was relatively bullish after last Sunday's game. Said they could have made a day to remember in Mullingar against Cork. Whether that's more to do with Cork or that's to do with Westmeath, I don't really know on the conditions maybe. But he kind of thinks they're settling in and that they're kind of stepping up to Division One hurling now, and that's taken a couple of games to get there. So like they won't want to be on the wrong end of a 15 or 20 point defeat as well, because it kind of puts them back to square one really again. So they'll be looking for a bit of consistency and like to be creditable. I remember a couple of years ago in the qualifiers they were brilliant against Tipperary in fairness down in Semple, and ran them relatively close comparatively to what you probably thought it was going to be. So there's a bit to lose for them there. I think there's absolutely nothing for Tipp to lose. This is an ideal scenario for them, and they'll win by double figures.
Just a quick one then on Offaly, because you've the sort of weekend that I'd imagine the people in the county who are pushing GA really wouldn't want. Away to Leitrim in the football and away to Mayo in the hurling. It's really not the bright lights in terms of even where you should be in the league ladder. Just the hurlers against Mayo. What are you expecting? Like the game last weekend was postponed. Are you hearing good things this past week? Because we had been talking about a bit of pressure for Michael Fennelly.
The way you Tipperary would Tipperary be happy with the postponement and the way it's worked out? I think it works exactly the same for Offaly. This is a chance to get a win on the board. By all accounts, Mayo have been beaten well in their games so far. It's been beaten very well, and this should be a chance to go up and get a bit of a confidence booster. I wouldn't be happy if they were playing Wicklow this weekend. I'd be a bit worried, but I think they'll get a win against Mayo, then be able to go to Wicklow with a bit of confidence and beat them, and then it all comes down to that rescheduling game against Antrim in the last game. So I'm kind of happy enough with how it's worked out. Just imagine the scenario if the game went ahead against Antrim and it just say Offaly were defeated. Then you've 2 games at the end of the league, which are very, very hard to motivate yourself for when you know the league is over. So they should have no problems motivating themselves now. I'm expecting a big win at the weekend, and hopefully for confidence to build into that last game.
Great stuff. We'll chat again after the weekend.
You know what?